The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council fell silent. Hundreds of alien representatives sat in their floating chairs, their various appendages trembling as they watched the holographic display. Another solar system vanished in a flash of crystalline light. "That's the fourth system this cycle," said Blue, his translucent fingers tapping nervously on his control panel. Like most council members, he had chosen a name based on his appearance. In his case, his shimmering blue skin. "The crystallids are moving faster than we predicted." The council's high speaker, a tall being with golden scales who simply went by Gold, rose from her central platform. Her voice echoed through the chamber. "Our peaceful ways have failed us. The crystallids do not respond to diplomacy. They do not answer our calls. They simply consume and convert." The display changed to show a close-up of the crystallids' work. Where once there had been living planets full of plants and animals, now there were only geometric shapes of pure crystal, each world transformed into a perfect, lifeless artwork. "Our weapons," Green started to say, his leaf-like skin rustling with anxiety. "Our weapons do nothing." Purple interrupted, all 6 of her eyes blinking rapidly. "They were designed to stun and incapacitate living beings. The crystallids are silicon-based. They don't feel pain. They don't sleep. They don't negotiate." The council members began talking all at once, their voices rising in panic. Some suggested evacuating whole systems. Others wanted to try sending more peace envoys. A few even proposed surrendering and accepting crystalline conversion as their fate. Gold raised her hand, and silence fell again. "The search team has found something," she said. "Show them." The hologram shifted to display a small blue-green planet orbiting an ordinary yellow star. The council members leaned forward, curiosity replacing their fear for a moment. "This is Earth," Gold explained, "and it is what our ancestors would have called a death world." Gasps filled the chamber. Most council species had evolved on peaceful worlds with stable climates and few natural threats. The very idea of a death world, a planet actively hostile to life, was horrifying to them. "Impossible," Blue whispered. "Nothing could evolve there." The display zoomed in, showing massive storms, active volcanoes, and great predators hunting their prey. "But something did evolve there," Gold continued. "The humans. They survived ice ages. They outlasted giant predators. They thrived in deserts and frozen wastelands alike. Their bodies can process foods that would kill any of us. They even drink poison for pleasure. They call it alcohol." Purple's tentacles curled in disgust. "They sound as dangerous as the crystallids." "No," Gold said firmly. "They are different. The crystallids destroy life. The humans, they protect it. Look." The hologram showed humans fighting fires to save forests, rescuing animals from disasters, and rebuilding cities after storms. It showed them advancing from stone tools to space stations in a mere fraction of the time it had taken other species. "Most remarkably," Gold continued, "they understand something we have forgotten over our millennia of peace. They understand war." The council members shifted uncomfortably at the word. War was a concept they knew only from ancient histories. "Not needless violence," Gold clarified, seeing their discomfort, "but the art of defending what matters, no matter the cost. They call it fighting spirit, and they have weapons, weapons designed to actually destroy threats, not just discourage them." Green raised a trembling leaf appendage. "Are you suggesting we ask these Deathworlders for help?" "Yes," Gold said simply. "We have tried peace. We have tried technology. Now we must try strength. Real strength, born from surviving on a world that tried to kill them every day." The council chamber erupted in debate again. Many members were horrified at the idea of involving such a young and violent species. Others saw the logic. They needed someone who understood how to fight, how to destroy when necessary. Gold waited for the noise to die down before speaking again. "We are a peaceful people. That is our greatest strength and our greatest weakness. But now we face an enemy that sees our peace as weakness. Perhaps we need these humans, these Deathworlders, to teach us that there are times when action must replace words. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes, optical sensors, and various other sensory organs of each council member. The question is not whether we ask for their help. The question is, will we survive long enough to reach them before the crystallids do? The hologram continued to play, showing humans building, fighting, surviving, and thriving on their hostile world. And for the first time since the crystallid crisis began, many council members felt something new: hope. The United Nations General Assembly wasn't used to visitors like this. Ambassador Red stood 7 feet tall, his crimson skin gleaming under the chamber lights. 2 thin arms hung at his sides, while a third arm held a translation device against his chest. His large, oval eyes blinked slowly as he surveyed the room full of human representatives. "Your world," he said, his translator converting his musical tones into clear English, "is what we call a death world." He paused, expecting shock or offense. Instead, several military officers in the audience nodded with what looked like pride. "You mean because of our earthquakes?" asked the Secretary General. "Or our hurricanes?" "All of it," Red replied. "The massive temperature swings between your seasons. The predators. The poisonous creatures. The very air you breathe contains corrosive oxygen. Yet you not only survived, you built civilizations. You reached for the stars." The chamber screens lit up with images of crystal-covered planets. While we grew soft in our perfect worlds, a threat emerged. The crystallids consume everything in their path. Our weapons. Red's skin darkened with what might have been embarrassment. Our weapons were designed to maintain peace, not wage war. General Roberts, a weathered veteran with gray hair, leaned forward. "You're saying you need soldiers." "We need teachers," Red corrected. "We need those who understand that sometimes survival requires action." "My people." He looked down at his hands. "We haven't faced real danger in so long that we've forgotten how." The Secretary General glanced at the military advisors before speaking. "Ambassador, what exactly are these crystallids? Help us understand what we're dealing with." Red pressed a button on his translator. A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber, showing crystalline structures growing across a planet's surface, like a beautiful but deadly infection. They are silicon-based life forms. They don't eat or sleep as you understand it. They convert matter into crystalline forms, absorbing energy and information in the process. We tried talking to them, but they see all carbon-based life as— He searched for the right word. Raw material. "Have you tried breaking them?" asked Dr. Jim West, a leading physicist. "Every crystal has a resonance frequency." Red's third arm twitched in surprise. No. Our weapons are designed to incapacitate living beings without harm. The concept of simply breaking an opponent." He trailed off, his skin shifting to a lighter shade. "That's why you need us," General Roberts said. It wasn't a question. "We understand destruction because we've had to protect ourselves from it since day one. Whether it's building shelters against tornadoes or developing weapons against threats, we've always had to fight back." The ambassador nodded. "Your history shows remarkable adaptability. When faced with a problem, you don't just accept it, you solve it. Sometimes with elegance, sometimes with force, but you always act. And now you want us to act against these crystallids," the Secretary General said. "Yes." Red's voice became urgent. "They've already consumed 4 solar systems. They're expanding exponentially. Our predictions show they'll reach your sector of space within 5 of your years. We can offer you advanced technology, but you—" His skin rippled with emotion. "You have something we lost long ago. The will to fight. The knowledge of how to defeat an enemy, not just discourage them." The chamber fell silent. The human representatives looked at each other, decades of science fiction stories suddenly becoming reality. Humanity had always wondered if they'd be seen as the primitives of the galaxy, But here was an advanced alien civilization asking for their help precisely because of their primitive nature. General Roberts stood up. Ambassador Red, I think I speak for many of us when I say that humanity has always hoped our first contact with alien life would be peaceful. But we also understand that peace sometimes must be protected with force. If these crystallids are the threat you describe, then Earth will not stand idly by. The Secretary General nodded. We will need to discuss the details, verify your information, and consult with our governments. But know this, if what you say is true, humanity will help. Not just because we're next in the crystallid's path, but because protecting life, in all its forms, is what we do. Red's skin brightened to a warm glow. For the first time since the crisis began, he felt something his people had almost forgotten: the desire to fight back. These humans, these Deathworlders, hadn't just survived their harsh world. They had learned from it. And now, perhaps, they could teach those lessons to the stars. The Earth's first Joint Military Scientific Response Center buzzed with activity. Captain Tom Miller stood at the Central Command Station, watching dozens of screens showing simulations of crystal growth patterns. Next to him, Dr. Ann White adjusted her glasses as she studied the latest test results. "Look at this, Captain," she said, pointing to a graph. "The crystallids don't just grow. They learn. Each new formation builds on the patterns of the last one." Ambassador Red stood nearby, his crimson skin paling as he watched humans preparing for war with an efficiency his people had never imagined. In just 2 weeks, they had accomplished more than the Council had in months. "This is remarkable," Red said, his third arm gesturing at the busy room. "Your people don't just accept information. You immediately look for ways to use it." Tom nodded, his weathered face serious. "On Earth, if you don't adapt, you don't survive. Simple as that." He turned to a large screen showing the test chamber. "Fire the sonic pulse again, Dr. White." In the chamber, a small crystal structure shattered under the invisible wave. Dr. White smiled. "Every crystal has a breaking point. We just need to find the right frequency for their larger structures." Red's translator chirped as he spoke. "But the crystallids will adapt. They always do." "Then we'll adapt faster," Tom replied. He pressed a button on his console, bringing up a new display. "Look here. We've modified some of our mining lasers based on your technology. Combined with Dr. White's resonance findings, we think we can shatter their larger formations before they can reorganize." Across the room, a team of engineers worked on what looked like primitive drilling equipment. Red had been surprised when humans insisted on bringing their outdated mining tools to the response center. Now he understood. They weren't clinging to old technology, they were adapting it. "Your mining tools," Red said slowly, "they were designed to break rocks." "Exactly." Dr. White grinned. "And what are the crystallids but living rocks? Sometimes the simple solution is the best one." The room's main screen lit up with an incoming transmission. It was Gold, the Council's high speaker. Her golden scales shimmered even through the holographic display. "Captain Miller," she said, her voice carrying a hint of worry. "The crystallids have changed course. They're moving faster than we predicted. They've already reached the Proxima system." Tom straightened up. "That's too close. How long until they get here?" 3 of your months, at most." The room fell silent. Everyone had expected to have more time. Tom looked around at his team, seeing not fear in their eyes, but determination. "Then we'll be ready in 2, he said firmly. Gold's image flickered. "Impossible, even with our technology." "With respect, High Speaker," Tom interrupted. "Impossible is what humans do best. We survived an ice age with nothing but stone tools and fire. We crossed oceans in wooden boats. We reached space in metal cans powered by controlled explosions. And now we'll stop these crystallids." Dr. White stepped forward. "We've already found their weakness. Every crystal, no matter how complex, has a resonance frequency that can shatter it. We just need to scale up our weapons. And if that doesn't work, Tom added. "We have other plans. On Earth, we learned long ago that you never depend on just one strategy." Red's skin brightened with hope. "This is why we needed you. Not just for your weapons or your technology, but for this human spirit that refuses to give up." Tom turned to his team. "All right, people, our timeline just got shorter. I want those sonic weapons ready for testing in 48 hours. Engineering team, double-check those modified mining lasers. Dr. White, keep working on those resonance patterns." As the room burst into renewed activity, Red watched in amazement. These humans didn't panic when faced with impossible odds. They didn't waste time with lengthy discussions or diplomatic ceremonies. They simply got to work. Gold's image watched them too, her scales shifting colors with emotion. "Perhaps," she said quietly, "we were wrong to call Earth a death world. It's not a world of death at all. It's a world that taught its children how to live, no matter the odds." Tom smiled grimly. "And now we'll teach the crystallids the same lesson. Either they learn to live in peace with others, or they learn what happens when you threaten a species that evolved on a world that never stopped trying to kill it." The testing chamber shook as another crystal structure exploded into dust. Dr. White adjusted her safety goggles and checked the readings on her tablet. Behind the protective glass, council members watched with a mixture of horror and fascination. "That was only 20% power," she explained to Ambassador Red. "The full-scale version will be strong enough to shatter their largest formations." Red's third arm twitched nervously. "We had such weapons once, long ago. We chose to forget them." "Sometimes the ability to destroy is necessary to protect," Tom said, entering the room with a stack of reports. "But we're not just building weapons, we're building defenses too." The main screen lit up, showing Earth's orbital stations being fitted with crystal-resistant plating. Teams of workers in spacesuits moved with practiced ease, installing the new technology that combined human mining equipment with alien materials. "Your people adapt so quickly," Red marveled. "In just 6 weeks, you've done more than we did in 6 months." Tom smiled. "That's because we're not trying to be perfect. We're trying to be effective." He turned to Dr. White. "How are the field tests going?" She brought up a new display showing a series of crystalline structures being subjected to different attacks. "The resonance weapons work best when combined with the modified mining lasers. First, we crack their outer shell. Then the sonic pulse shatters them completely. Like breaking rocks in a quarry," Tom nodded. "We've been doing that for thousands of years. The only difference is the scale." The door slid open, and Gold's hologram appeared in the center of the room. "Captain Miller, we've detected something concerning. The crystallids are changing their patterns. They're forming new structures we haven't seen before." "Show me," Tom said. The display changed to show massive crystalline formations arranging themselves into complex geometric patterns. Dr. White leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. "They're trying to deflect our sonic weapons," she said. "These new formations would scatter the resonance waves." Red's skin paled. "They've learned already. But how?" "Because they're survivors too," Tom said quietly. "Different from us, but still adapted to their environment." He turned to his team. "This is good news." "Good news." Red's translator crackled with confusion. "If they can adapt, they can learn," Tom explained. "And if they can learn, maybe we can teach them something important, that humans don't give up." Dr. White was already working at her station. "We can modify the attack pattern. Instead of one big pulse, we'll use multiple smaller ones from different angles. She smiled, like breaking up a boulder with multiple small charges instead of one big explosion. The engineering team jumped into action, adjusting their designs. Humans worked alongside alien technicians, showing them how to think differently about their own technology. The council members watched in amazement as their advanced equipment was modified in ways they had never considered. "Your mining tools," one alien engineer said, his blue scales shimmering with excitement. "They're so simple, but so clever." That's because they were designed by people who had to get the job done, no matter what, Tom replied. When your survival depends on breaking rocks, you get very good at breaking rocks. Red moved to stand beside Tom, watching the busy room. We feared your warrior nature when we first found Earth. We thought your violent history made you dangerous. We are dangerous, Tom agreed. But danger isn't always bad. A storm is dangerous, but it brings rain. Fire is dangerous, but it gives warmth and light. The trick isn't to avoid danger, it's to learn from it. The main screen updated with new data from the outer scouts. The crystallids were now just weeks away from the first inhabited systems. But instead of panic, the room hummed with purposeful energy. Time for the final tests, Dr. White announced. All teams to their stations. As humans and aliens worked side by side, Red realized something important. These Deathworlders hadn't just learned to survive their harsh planet. They had learned to thrive because of it. Every challenge had made them stronger, more adaptable, more determined. Perhaps, he said softly, this is why the universe gave us humans. Not because they're perfect, but because they never stop trying to be better. Tom checked his watch. The Proxima system glittered with an unnatural light. Where planets should have been, crystalline structures floated in space, their surfaces catching and reflecting starlight in beautiful but deadly patterns. Captain Tom Miller stood on the bridge of the Earth ship Thunder, watching the enemy through the main viewport. Behind his vessel, a fleet of human ships waited alongside the Council's larger but more delicate craft. They're even more beautiful up close, Ambassador Red said quietly from his station. His crimson skin had paled to a soft pink with anxiety. Beautiful things can still be deadly, Tom replied. Like poisonous flowers on Earth. Time to see if our preparations paid off. He pressed the ship's comm button. All ships, battle formation Delta. Remember your training. The human fleet moved forward while the Council ships held back. Dr. White's voice came through the comm from her research vessel. Initial scans confirm our theories. These structures have the same basic patterns we tested against. The resonance weapons should work. The crystallids noticed them. Massive formations began to shift and move, growing and changing shape. Beautiful crystal spears, miles long, formed and pointed toward the human fleet. They're preparing to attack, Red said, his translator crackling with tension. Tom nodded. Good. That means they can learn. And if they can learn to fear us. He keyed the fleet-wide channel. All ships, execute pattern break alpha. Mining lasers first, then sonic pulses, just like we practiced. The human fleet split into smaller groups, approaching the crystal formations from multiple angles. The Council ships watched in amazement as the smaller Earth vessels darted between the crystal spears with surprising agility. Now, Tom ordered. Modified mining lasers, originally designed to cut through Earth's hardest rocks, fired in precise patterns. Where they hit, the crystal surfaces cracked and splintered. The crystallids tried to repair the damage, but then the sonic weapons fired. The effect was devastating. Entire sections of the crystalline structures shattered into space dust. The crystallids had never faced an enemy that could actually hurt them, and their confusion was obvious in their chaotic movements. They're trying to adapt, Dr. White called out. The patterns are changing. Just like we expected, Tom replied calmly. All ships, switch to pattern break beta. Don't let them complete their reforming sequence. The human fleet moved with practiced precision. Months of training paid off as they executed complex maneuvers that kept the crystallids off balance. Every time the crystal formations tried to create a new defense pattern, the humans attacked from a different angle. Red watched in awe. Your ships, they move like predators. That's exactly what we are, Tom said. Earth taught us that sometimes you have to be a predator to survive, but it also taught us to be smart predators. A massive crystal structure suddenly broke apart, its pieces spinning into space. The Council ship's sensors registered something they had never detected from the crystallids before. Fear. They're retreating. Dr. White announced. The main formations are pulling back. But Tom noticed something else. They're not just retreating. Look at their movement patterns. They're trying to communicate. The crystal structures were forming new shapes, different from their attack patterns. Dr. White's voice was excited as she reported. These are similar to the patterns we use in our communication attempts. They're trying to talk. Tom smiled grimly. Sometimes you have to show strength before you can have a real conversation. He turned to Red. Your people tried to talk first. We had to fight first. Now maybe we can do both. The main crystal formation reformed into a complex pattern that the ship's computers quickly translated. Why fight? Why not join? Send them our reply, Tom ordered. The human ships positioned themselves in formation, using their energy signatures to create a response. Because life is precious. All life, even yours. There was a long pause as the crystal structures shifted and changed. Finally, they formed a new message. HFY. Red's skin brightened with hope. They want to understand. After all this time, they want to learn. Tom nodded. That's the thing about a good fight. Sometimes it's the start of a better conversation. He turned to his crew. All ships hold position. Let's show these crystallids that humans don't just know how to fight. We also know how to make peace, when we need to. 3 months after the first battle, the Great Hall of the Galactic Defense Academy buzzed with activity. Captain Tom Miller stood at the front of the room, facing an audience that would have seemed impossible just a year ago. Council species of all shapes and colors sat alongside crystalline beings who now chose to learn rather than consume. The most important lesson Earth taught us, Tom said, pointing to the display behind him, is that strength isn't just about weapons. It's about adaptation. In the front row, Ambassador Red nodded, his crimson skin glowing with interest. Beside him sat a crystallid observer, its facets gleaming as it recorded every word through its crystalline structure. Your species are all different, Tom continued. Some of you evolved in perfect peace. Others, like the crystallids, evolved to expand and consume. We humans evolved to survive against all odds. Each path has its strengths. Each has its lessons. Dr. White entered the room, carrying new sensor data. The screens changed to show various planetary defense systems that combined council technology, crystallid structures, and human practical experience. Look at this, she said, highlighting a new defense platform. Council energy fields, reinforced by crystallid lattices, powered by human-designed reactors. We're stronger together than apart. A blue-skinned council member raised an appendage. But how do we overcome our fear of conflict? We spent so long avoiding it. Tom smiled. The same way humans overcame our fear of fire, by learning to control it. Conflict isn't always bad. Sometimes it pushes us to be better. He gestured to the crystallid observer. Our new friends here taught us that. The crystalline being shifted its facets, creating a pattern that the translators rendered as, we thought consumption was the only way to grow. Humans showed us that growth can come from cooperation. In the back of the room, Gold watched with pride. The High Speaker had seen her peaceful council transform over the past months. They weren't becoming warriors. They were becoming something better. Protectors. Each species brings something valuable, Tom explained. Council technology is incredible. Crystallid structures are marvels of engineering. Human experience with survival and conflict helps make them both more effective. Dr. White pulled up new training simulations. We're not just teaching combat. We're teaching adaptation, how to face challenges, how to overcome them. These are lessons Earth taught us every day. A hologram appeared, showing Earth's varied environments, from frozen poles to burning deserts, from deep oceans to high mountains. Our world tried to kill us countless times, Tom said. But instead of giving up, we learned. We adapted. We grew stronger. The crystallid observer created another pattern. Like us, you changed your environment. Unlike us, you learned to do it without destroying other life. Exactly, Tom agreed. And now we can teach each other. Council species are learning to face challenges instead of avoiding them. Crystallids are learning to grow without destroying. And humans, he smiled, we're learning that we're not alone in facing the universe's challenges. Red stood up, his third arm gesturing at the displays. When we first found Earth, we called it a death world. We were wrong. It was a training ground. And now, the whole galaxy is becoming a place where we all learn from each other. The room filled with sounds and patterns of agreement from all species present. Dr. White's sensors showed something remarkable. The crystallid observers were forming patterns that mimicked council communication methods, while council members were studying crystallid structure patterns with genuine interest. This academy, Tom concluded, isn't just about defense. It's about understanding. Earth taught us that survival isn't just about being the strongest or the most peaceful. It's about finding the right balance for each challenge. Gold moved to the front of the room, her scales shimmering. And that, perhaps, is the greatest lesson the Deathworlders taught us. Not how to fight, but how to learn from every experience, even the difficult ones. As the session ended, humans, council members, and crystallids moved together through the academy halls, sharing ideas and experiences. The galaxy was changing, becoming stronger not through force or perfect peace, but through understanding and adaptation. Tom watched them go, remembering the desperate message that had first brought aliens to Earth. They had asked for warriors, but what they really needed were teachers. And Earth, the death world, had turned out to be the greatest teacher of all. 1 year after the first contact with the crystallids, the Grand Hall of the Galactic Council looked very different. Crystal formations now decorated the walls, their patterns shifting to help translate complex ideas. Council members no longer sat in separate floating chairs, but gathered in mixed groups around shared learning spaces. Captain Tom Miller stood beside Dr. White at the central platform, facing the most diverse gathering in galactic history. Gold, the high speaker, smiled as she activated the main display. Today, she announced, we redefine our understanding of worlds and species. The screen showed Earth, but not as a death world. Instead, it was labeled with a new term, Crucible World. Tom stepped forward. A crucible is where metals are tested by fire, coming out stronger. That's what Earth did for humanity. Every challenge made us stronger, smarter, more adaptable. The Crystallid Ambassador, a beautiful formation that called itself Clear, created a pattern that the new crystal walls translated. Like us, humans shaped their environment. Unlike us, they learned to do it while preserving other life. This balance is what we now strive to learn. Dr. White nodded. And we've learned from you too. The crystallid's ability to store and share information through their structures has revolutionized our data systems. The Council's peaceful technologies have helped us find better ways to solve problems. Red, now Earth's permanent ambassador to the Council, stood up. His crimson skin glowed with pride as he spoke. When we first came to Earth, we thought we needed warriors. What we really needed were teachers. The humans taught us that strength comes in many forms. The display changed to show the new Galactic Defense Network. Crystal stations powered by human-designed cores used Council technology to protect peaceful worlds. But they weren't just defensive platforms. They were also learning centers, sharing knowledge across species. The galaxy is changing, Tom said, not through war or perfect peace, but through understanding. Every species brings something valuable to teach. Gold gestured to a group of young council members training with human instructors. Our youth now learn both peace and strength. They understand that avoiding conflict isn't always the answer, but neither is rushing into battle. Clear shifted its crystals to form a new pattern. And our kind learns that growth doesn't require destruction. We can build without consuming, expand without erasing. Humans showed us this balance. Dr. White brought up new data on the display. The combination of council science, crystallid structures, and human innovation has opened up possibilities we never imagined. We're not just surviving anymore. We're all thriving together. The screen showed new worlds being settled, but not in the old ways. Crystallid formations worked with council technology to create habitats that worked with nature rather than against it. Human experience with adapting to harsh environments helped make these settlements stronger and more resilient. Earth was never just a death world, Tom said. It was a proving ground. Every challenge, every hardship, every triumph taught us something important. Now we can share those lessons with the galaxy. Gold raised her hand, her scales shimmering with emotion. The Council hereby officially recognizes Earth as the first documented crucible world, a place where adversity forges strength, where challenge breeds innovation, and where survival teaches wisdom. The gathered species, council members, crystallids, and humans alike, showed their approval in their own ways. Some glowed, others hummed, and some simply smiled. Red turned to Tom and Dr. White. You know, when we first found Earth, we thought your violent history made you dangerous. We were right, but not in the way we thought. You're dangerous because you never stopped trying to be better, to learn more, to find new ways forward. That's the real lesson of Earth, Tom replied. Not just how to survive, but how to help others survive too. Not just how to fight, but when to fight and when to teach instead. As the ceremony ended, the crystal walls pulsed with patterns that translated into every known language the same message. From the crucible of Earth came not conquerors or victims, but teachers. And from their lessons, the galaxy grows stronger. The Deathworlders had done more than take action. They had shown the galaxy a new way forward, where strength and peace weren't opponents but partners in the great dance of survival and growth.